Today in the show, I have the pleasure of speaking with Sam Wilson. Now, Sam is an active investor in many different real estate assets. He's in self-storage, he's in parking, he's in retail, he's in multifamily apartments, RV parks, and he's in single-family homes. He's also the host of How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast, where he interviews real estate experts to give listeners the tips, tools, and tricks to scale their investment portfolio. And I had the pleasure of being on his show a couple of weeks back. But the thing that really makes Sam tick is he's so passionate about building a machine that gives him time and money freedom. That whether it be a business or real estate, he doesn't care too much about what the hustle is, as long as it builds his lifestyle for him and his family. G'day, Sam. Welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
Reed, I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, mate, my pleasure. Where are you dialing in from today?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. How is the weather over in Memphis right now? You getting a bit cold over there?
Man, it's beautiful here today. The temperature's like, I don't know, 50, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And sunny, man.
Getting a little wintry, getting the pumpkin spice lattes.
For those of you for those of you in Los Angeles, that maybe that is cold, but no, this is perfect. This is awesome. Perfect weather for me.
Awesome, brother. Well, mate, I start the show with every question. I ask all my guests this: is rewind the clock and tell me how you made your first ever dollar as a kid.
Ooh, that'd have probably been first grade, maybe second. And I figured out that, and I'd saved some quarters. I got one of those change, like stackable change machines. You save 5, 10s, and 25 cents at a time. And I'd saved quarters. I love quarters. I think I made it all the way to $15 doing who knows what. But I took that money and my brother wanted to sell. You remember Jolly Ranchers, the hard candy?
Yes.
But when I was a kid, they sold them these big, long plastic, and probably you too, big, long sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you could pull out 8 teeth at once with them. Like, just horrible pieces. They don't sell them anymore. But my brother figured out he had the chutzpah to go sell them in his class, but didn't have the money to buy them. And so I bought them. He sold them. We split the profits.
Love it.
And my first dollar ever made was being the banker. It was like, there's something onto this. So there's how you did it. First grade hustling candy to second grade classmates.
Two brothers getting up to no good. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, they actually made us quit. Which I'm like, if you're gonna teach a kid anything in elementary school, you like, talk about demotivator. Like, you should be patting this kid on the back, going, "Hey, man, that's really smart." You see a market need. You have willing buyers and willing sellers. Like, you're thinking here, buddy. Keep doing that. Instead, they're like, "No, you can't sell to your classmates."
You got to work. I don't know what you call it, the canteen, I think, but we call it the tuck shop in Australia. And it was where you'd go, your mum give you some lunch change, and you'd go buy yourself some lunch, and it would always be the lolly line or the candy line. And
right.
They're probably telling you to stop it because they're taking profits away from the school.
I don't know what it was, but I still look at that story and I'm like, this is why I dislike education still. Like, this just didn't work.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, I want to get into your story. You built a lot of stuff. In the introduction, I talk about just all the different asset classes you're involved in, but you didn't start there. So walk us through how you grew into becoming a real estate entrepreneur and what you built to date.
Yeah, I mean, today, I'll be honest, I'm not where I want to be. I mean, that's just, and I don't know how many of us are. It's a journey, right? Mm-hmm. And when you see the helter-skelter array of things I've invested in, it's probably because I didn't ever have the patience to focus, and that's cost me quite a bit. That's a downfall. What is tell me what you're doing and what does it cost you or what has it benefited you? Not having, and I say this all the time now, I want to go an inch wide and a mile deep. Like, I am hyper focused right now on 2 asset classes, and that's probably not as hyper focused as I could be. But 2 asset classes, and that's it. I have no real interest. I even had a phone call this morning with some legacy offers we'd made a couple years ago in the parking industry, and somebody called back and like, "Hey, I know you made an offer a couple years ago. I wanted to circle back with you on this." And it said, "Look, guys, I'll make an offer, but you're not going to like it because it's got to be at such a price that it makes all the sense in the world to me So I'm going to make your offer and you'll probably put it in the shredder because I really need to focus down. And if you make it really, really sweet, then I'll probably find a way to make a pie on it and keep moving. But otherwise, like, it's just blinders. I got into real estate on accident. I always say it was the good Lord having mercy on an idiot. I've told this story probably way too many times, but I was drinking coffee one morning and saw a foreclosure listing here in Tennessee. They used to post them on the attorneys' websites, actually, if you can believe that or not. You have various foreclosing attorneys. Today, it's a deed of trust state here, and so these attorneys would be the ones listing the foreclosures. And I happened to be on their website, saw the opening bid, saw the address, saw it was 2 miles from me, or a mile from me rather. Went and looked at the house, and I'm like, hey, this is purchasable. I asked my wife, hey, do you mind if I buy a house today? She goes, no. 2 hours later, we owned a house, made a pile of money on it. I just kept doing it. So 9 years later, I'm still in real estate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's been, of course, the journey from that point forward has been like everyone's kind of, iterative in nature. But I had no intention of being in real estate, and here I am.
Well, and what was the career before real estate?
I owned a flooring company.
Huh. Okay.
So my brother and I owned a flooring company up in Indianapolis. It was a successful flooring company. We made it through the '08 crisis, which we went from having 30 employees to 1, which was painful. Man, I had to trade in my dress clothes and collared shirt for jeans and work boots again. Ground my way through that. And you also figure out in industries like that, like where the ceiling is. It's pretty low. It's got low ceilings. The other thing, in that industry, and nothing against, there's a lot of really smart people in the flooring business. It's probably one of the most expensive trades that go into the building of a home, which is really interesting. But the idea that the 5 people you surround yourself around is the sum of who you are. And when you're working in that environment, you're just not necessarily sharpening yourself with the people you surround yourself with. So that kind of just got old, and I kind of hated it, and we sold it and moved on.
Interesting. And so, congratulations that you did sell it, because coming out of any exit, it's a pretty successul, right? Like that you started a company, you sold it. Like,
right.
That's tick the box.
Tick the box. Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't rich. Rich, but we sold it. It was the most money I'd ever made on anything. And I was just glad to be out and had money and time on my hands and wound up in real estate.
Right. And so you mentioned 2 asset classes you're in today. So not parking. What are they?
Multifamily and storage.
Multifamily storage. Got it.
Yeah. And came in as we've done some SVP stuff, or SPV probably. Special purpose vehicle stuff with some other, major folks in the storage industry, as well as developing, and I'm niching down inside of storage even further into boat and RV storage. So developing boat and RV storage and looking at other boat and RV storage facilities right now to acquire. That has some runway in it, I think, just based upon the current trends. Here, obviously multifamily is very hot, and I don't care if everybody else wants to go out and get into boat and RV storage, knock yourself out. It's a simpler version of, I think, even regular self-storage, just in the sense that usually it's one asset. They're very expensive, and people don't like, getting those either taken away or share sale or, locked off. I mean, people pay their notes on those, and you're getting a lot more per unit on a rent rate, maybe not per square foot, but per unit. You're getting a premium to park a $100,000 to $500,000 asset. People are going to pay up to put that in a garage covered space. So yeah, it's got some merit to it on that front too. Again, going back to the working with the right clientele or working with the right people with those types of assets. Again, they're going to pay and be probably a lot easier to deal with.
I'm obviously quite well. I've got a big portfolio of multifamily myself. I've not made the transition into another asset class like self-storage would be very, complementary.
Right.
How do you go about, just for the listeners out there with the self-storage stuff, how do you go about analyzing? Because I know in the multifamily space, as you know, we've got, every man and their dog needs a roof over their head, right? Everyone needs somewhere to live. You've got property management companies who make it a profession just running these things. You've got all these online widgets, and I was actually literally just on a call with my regional manager talking about the budgets and the marketing budget and the admin and office administration budgets and the R&M budget and all that sort of stuff. So what's the differences in your mind between the self-storage world and from a determining if it's a good deal versus the multifamily? Obviously, we know multifamily, you want to be, in a good affluent area. You want to be surrounded by high income homes. You want your demographic to, you want to shift the demographic to earn more. What are you doing on the self-storage front? Like, is it drive-by cars, or what sort of tips can you give the listeners if they're wanting to look into self-storage to understand if it's a good deal or not?
Well, I mean, on the large, we'll even broaden the scope a little bit and call it toy storage, right? If you're going to the toy storage space, you can either be in a metropolitan or near a big city, right? Because I mean, most of these places can't park their boats and their RVs in their driveway. Nor do most people want to, unless you live on a farm or somewhere that you have acreage, which again, you're no longer in the city. So that's option one as far as your clientele. And you're going to find that really in any major city, boat and RV storage or, big toy storage, things like that. Usually in the suburbs, of course, where again, people can't park their stuff in their driveway. The other thing is near, especially here in the South, I don't know how many reservoirs, and of course there's reservoirs all over the country, but I feel like the Southeast is just littered with reservoirs. Anywhere near a reservoir, man, to and from the reservoir, like you can be, there was a facility I was looking at last week between Memphis and a lake called Pickwick Lake here in Tennessee. And Pickwick, I mean, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours from Memphis, and halfway between here and there, potential to buy and build and buy and then add on to a facility. It's 100% leased up. It's out in the middle of the country, right? But it's a beautiful facility, boat and RV storage, but people traveling back and forth from the city to Pickwick, they don't want to drag their boats back and forth, right? They want to take it only a certain distance, park it, put it somewhere nice, know it's secure behind a 6-8 foot fence with barbed wire on top and secure access. And I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. So that's where we're building right now is near reservoirs. Mm-hmm. Where demand, of course, you got to know what the demand is. I mean, you're looking at things that I don't do, like fishing groups and, trolling Facebook for what fishing groups are out there and how many members will shoot, man. There's, 40,000 members in just a fishing group on this reservoir alone. Holy smokes. And then you see everybody in the area is completely packed. Mm-hmm. So that's, those are kind of just some of the ways we look at it. And it's a little bit, I'm sure that and I haven't spent the money on this yet. So, I'm sure that there's, feasibility studies and things like that you could really have done, but really knowing the area and just seeing what demand is and having boots in the ground that have a good feel for what's going on is probably the easiest way to identify opportunity in that space.
Sure. What are you looking from an expense ratio point of view? The multifamily looking around 50%. What's it in toy storage, as you like to
30,
say?
maybe
30. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's low. You're going to trade it at a higher cap rate too. 8% ish, depending on the age of the facility, maybe 9. There's room there. It's going to trade at a higher cap rate. So on the buy side, that's certainly better.
And what sort of value add programs? I know I've spoken to a couple of self-storage operators on this show. It's all about the tech and the seamless, coming in, getting your boat. I'm assuming the same thing. You don't have to deal with people. You just want to go in, scan something, off you go. Is that part of the value add?
Well, yeah, for sure. And the other big component is size. That bigger is better. Truly, because boats have grown in the size. RVs have become, just behemoths. I don't know if you paid attention to you're going two ways in the RV land. You're going to like Class A 44 footers, and then you're going to, sprinter vans that have been tricked out, or even those Mercedes. They even make Mercedes sells one for like, I don't know, a couple $100,000. It's like real compact. I mean, you could put your shoebox in it, and it's like got everything you need. So you can go both ways with that, but the size of the units matter. So if you go to any facility and you ask them, hey, I'm looking for a 14 foot high, 11 foot wide, 40 foot deep space, most of the time they're going to say, yeah, we don't have them. And so that's what we're building is just going, all right, we're building bigger facilities to handle the bigger toys that people have.
Interesting.
And
so this is all, what you're saying is it's all indoor storage, right? It's not just a fence around a horizontal asphalt parking lot. Hey, park it wherever you want. Give me $100 a month.
those places, believe it or not, are doing really well too. Golly, I've toured plenty of them, and you're just like, why? I personally don't understand it. Like, why are you guys are going to park in a field basically? and pay $100 a month to do it. This is madness. So that just shows you there's demand. Like if you can provide covered storage, which you can do one of two things. I mean, because then you got these giant fifth wheels, right? You got these fifth wheels that people pull on these giant trucks, and then you might not even be able to park those indoors because they're so dang tall. And so then on those, we'll build covered pull through storage, but not necessarily indoor. So there's really lots of different ways you could look at that.
So, but let's talk about the rental rate, because it's always very interesting. You mentioned earlier price per square foot. I just pulled $100 out. What's the sort of good rental rate for a boat these days? And I assume it's not air conditioned, or is it conditioned space?
I mean, we're not putting anything with conditioned space in it. I can't imagine what that would run. I mean, because that's a lot of cubic feet. A lot of cubic feet. If I don't want to sound like an idiot on here because I did do the math and get it wrong. But even per space, it's a lot, let alone, across an entire facility. So no, we are not doing climate controlled. Got it.
But your average space for the average boat would go for what?
Depends on the city, and depends on whether you're city or more rural. The more rural, if I can say that word, I hate that word. The more rural you get, the harder or the lower, of course, the rate will be. But you're talking anywhere, $150, maybe $180 average per month per space. So if you build a 200 space facility, you're talking $36,000 a month gross rent. So yeah, no, that's probably average. I think the rate's higher here in Memphis. I know I've looked at some other facilities here and it's higher. But of course it's more accessible and it's in town. You're paying property taxes that are, out of the roof as well.
Yep. So, and management wise, who have you got running these things from day to day, if anyone? You.
It's no one. I mean, that's it. That's why the expense ratio is low. I mean, you might have a lot guy that goes out and sprays for weeds and keeps the fence lines clear. But I mean, as far as, and keeping the place cleaned up, and I've talked to some other folks that, they, especially if they have rural facilities, they may even go so far as putting a mobile home out there at the corner lot and giving somebody free rent to watch the place and, take care of it, just to keep eyes and ears on it. But then we also put up security systems and everything else. So, I don't see a need. That just sounds like more management to me. So no, right now, nobody. It's just not needed.
And you mentioned is all brand new stuff you're doing, or are you retrofitting old properties to accommodate these
all brand new? And again, the idea is that you're building the size that people want. Because again, the project we have underway right now it's just that we're building everything that no one has.
Right, that's right. Well, and that's I didn't even think about you're right. You need a big roller door, you need a big size to back that boat in, and hopefully the idiot who's backing it in doesn't hit your columns and the whole thing comes down.
Yeah, right. Well, there is that, and I guess that's what insurance is for. But yes,
right. So on the build, what are you spending these days? I know with costs of construction going up and all that sort of stuff, is that starting to hit your bottom line?
Well, yes and no. It depends on where we come back. I mean, the facility we're on right now, we're in the middle of grading and doing some other site work things, and we've not yet finalized on the construction costs. And this will be actually our first ground up. So, not to say we're building hundreds of these. This is our first ground up we're doing right now. And I don't know. We're building 216 units there. How many of those are fully enclosed? 150 of those are fully enclosed. Yeah. So we'll use that as the number and know that there's 66 pull-through units. So 150 of those are fully enclosed, and it's going to run us soup to nuts, 1.8 million-ish.
Okay.
We're all 216, 150 enclosed, and 66 pull-through, which the pull-through, again, is basically just an oversized barn with
about $12,000, on the 150, knowing that the other stuff is site work, it's fencing, it's grading, so that's good. That's a good number.
It's not bad at all.
And then you back into your 150. You said, what was it? You said $200 a unit times 12.
Yeah, and the one we're building right now is gonna be more rural, so you're probably looking at that 150.
150. So 150 multiplied by 150. Then you get probably 80% occupancy rate multiplied by 12, and I'm not even doing the exterior. So $216,000 just on the total rev multiplied by.
Yes, that's actually eerily close to what I've probably got in an Excel spreadsheet.
So you're looking at about $150,000. I'm just doing this for people listening at home. And you said $150,000 on an NOI, 1.8 mil. Yeah, you're looking, that's an 8.4 cap.
Right.
Very attractive. Right. Very attractive. So, and then that's before financing and everything. And I'm doing very rough numbers here, but just for those people who are listening, it helps give an idea of, it doesn't have to be complicated. I know on my spreadsheets, I'm grinding today, that budget call, I'm grinding my freaking property manager, like, hey, what the hell is that? That's that advertising. No, not it was $300 a month on SEO. No, I don't want that. I want 150, I'm getting to that granular detail, but that's awesome. That's thank you for sharing that with me. That's it's a very, so what's the goal then? Are you trying to really blow this up and you said you're combining it with multifamily. So clearly this is your niche right now, but what's the goal in the next, call it 5 years for your company to build these things out?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the test run product, right? See how it goes. See what I see. I'm one of those people that I never enjoyed, again, going back to my dislike of school. I never liked school because I don't learn by sitting. I learn by doing. And so I can read a book all day, but I have to go do it. And then I understand it. Like that's the only way, is if I can touch it. And if I can go, okay, I did this. Now let's see how this performs. And hey, I might hate the asset class, right? I might get a year in and be like, this sucks. I hate this asset class. Well, I'm not going to build more. Right. So, I don't know where this leads. Again, going back to kind of a lifestyle idea, is that for me, I want to build a lifestyle around my business and not necessarily, I don't love to work. I don't.
No one does.
Well, I've worked my whole life. I mean, we grew up really pretty poor, which is why I learned to do the hustle early on. And it's like, I've worked for a long, long time, and it's not that I'm opposed to it, but there's more to life than work. And, the quality of life that you can lead is more important to me than maybe, making the almighty dollar.
Right.
I love to have money. I love what money can do for me. But, if I can achieve a certain lifestyle that it makes my family happy, meets our needs, and allows us to collect experiences, not things, I'm in, man. I'm in. And so where do I go with this business? Hard to say. I love raising capital. That's probably something I really enjoy. I love talking to investors on the phone. I love crunching numbers. I love seeing things take off. I love doing deals and shaking hands. And I found myself in Houston on Monday looking at an opportunity, something completely out of real estate, but it was like, hey, wait, here's the fire sale on a certain asset class. And I couldn't help but go look at it, because it's gosh. It's actually a gym franchise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a gym that I currently belong to. I've worked out for 2.5, 3 years, and I've always thought, gosh, it'd be fun to own this franchise. So kind of the stars may be lining up between having a somebody, and again, it's not something I'm dedicating time to. So this goes back to an inch wide and a mile deep idea. Already have the people in place that would run it. I would finance it. And then I would basically kind of be a light business coach for them, maybe for 30, 45 minutes a week. And otherwise, I'm completely hands off.
Yeah, right.
So
that's interesting. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I love that. I love what learning real estate and doing these things. And I just crunch the numbers for the people on listening in, but then all these other opportunities come up and you're applying the same metric. Okay, what's the rev? What's the expense ratio? What's my equity in? What am I making cash flow out of this? Boom. So within a couple of steps, you can quickly figure that out.
Right. Yeah. I think on this opportunity, we estimated that in year one, I'd have 100% return of capital. Boom. It's like, okay, 100% return of capital. It's, when you could figure the returns, but they become silly at that point.
Right. So, and I will say for the listeners listening in, owning a business is different to owning physical real estate, because it's not a hard asset, and the business goes away. For sure. The way you can, insure. I know people who own medical practices, medical office buildings. Medical practices, but they try to buy the building as well to have the tangible asset underneath, and you could do a similar play with a gym franchise. But that's freaking awesome, man. But I want to dig a little bit deeper into that lifestyle. Quality of life. People, that's what they get into, and I'll put my hand up. I am guilty of being a workaholic, and I got into this business. And I hustle, and I'm only 35, and I do feel the burn. I do feel the grind. And I kudos to you about trying to recalibrate to make sure you are with that major focus on quality of lifestyle, quality of experiences over the almighty dollar. It's good to have money in the bank account, but it can't come at your kids hate you, or your shitty marriage, or your health sucks, or whatever that might be. Right. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said all of it. It's like, to what end? I mean, rewind your brain a little bit and think like, okay, who were some really successful businessmen in the 60s? I don't know. I'm sure there's some people that made an impact on what I'm doing today, but I don't know what your name is, and I don't really care. And the same thing's going to happen to people in the 2080s for the 2020s. And you'll be like, Sam, who cares, man? Like, my legacy is hopefully that, I take care of my family. I take care of, my kids. Of course, they're part of my family. I love my wife well, and I love the people around me well. And it's like, and if you spend your days frittering away doing stuff you hate, or fritter away, just chasing money. I mean, money is just a tool, right? It's just a tool. Right. And in the end, if you don't have a quality of life, and I just, again, growing up without and seeing those with, and then, being able now to cross compare that the other way around, where it's like, I don't know, man, like quality of life and who I get to be with and how I spend that time with them. I'd say there's a three-legged stool that leads to quality of life. That's going to be your health. That's going to be your wealth. What's the third one? Health, wealth, and damn, I can't even remember it now. See, that was a great story, wasn't it, Reed?
Well, I want to preface that. Like, I look at more of pillars, because there's a couple of pillars in life. There's health, there's wealth, there's spirituality or religion. Either one of that. And then there's I'm also forgetting what there's the fourth one, but it's giving back, contribution. That was the fourth one. Right. And I interview so many people on this show that have the business, the one-legged stool, really strong, but the others aren't as strong. And as we evolve, and I've interviewed a lot of people on this show like yourself, who've realized that, chasing the dollar, it's not the be-all to end-all. You want to obviously create the freedom for yourself to do something bigger. So I know in the question,
time,
yeah, exactly.
Time is the one. Like, you're missing any of those three, and your stool doesn't stand up.
Right.
Correct. You got no time, but you got health and wealth. Well, you're dead. If you've got wealth and time, but your health sucks. Like, I know people in that category, no decamillionaires in that category. And it's like, I wouldn't trade seats with you if the sweet Lord Jesus asked me himself. No, sir. Thank you very much. I'm good. Like, your health is gone. Life's over. So in time and health, but no money. I mean, who was it that said that the people that said the money can't buy you happiness don't know it, or forgot what it feels like to be broke. So it's like, yes, actually, money can help on the happiness trail, but it's not the end to happiness. So that's the trifecta for me that I'm aiming for, is health, wealth, and time. Right.
In your questionnaire for the show, you mentioned giving back and doing more. What are you doing now with you have this more time? And what's making you tick? Maybe not on the business front, but helping give back to the wider community or with your family. What are you doing on that front?
Yeah, sure. No, that's great. So my brother and sister-in-law actually run an urban outreach in Indianapolis, which is really cool. They call it Straight Up, and they just reach out to the urban youth there. And so a portion of our proceeds always go to that. Of course, out of my pocket, not out of investors' proceeds, but out of the general partner side, which is fun to see that go and grow, and the heartaches and the struggles along that front. But that's just a purely financial side of things. That I think is easier. One of the things that's been, my wife and I can't have kids. And so we foster. And in February, we had 3 foster kids show up. We call it the 30-minute family, where at like 8 o'clock at night, they're like, hey, we got 3 kids, 5, 3, and 8 months. Can you take them? So by 9 o'clock, we had 3 kids in the house. And that's cost me a lot this year. It's probably been the hardest year of my life, no doubt.
Really?
Oh gosh. I mean, you take kids from a trauma and abuse background. You got a lot of stuff to deal with, a lot of stuff. I mean, you deal with it today. I mean, I was talking to the oldest today. I'm like, hey, buddy, I'm going to be gone next week. And I didn't tell him I'm gone from Tuesday to Sunday. I just said I'm gone Thursday, because we were just talking about Thursday. I'm like, oh, yeah, I won't be here on Veterans Day. And then you just see the shutdown. You're like, oh, no, crud. Like, all right, we got some prep work to do before I leave for 5 days. And it's just things like that take a lot of time. And then, just again, trauma and abuse backgrounds, we didn't sleep for 7 months. So but that's super rewarding on the give back side. I mean, you see kids that have gone from, again, malnourished, which I just don't understand here in this country, how you are malnourished, but they are, all of a sudden gaining years of growth in, what's it been, 9 months, literally years of growth. So that's just been astounding to watch what love and food and exercise and sleep. Yeah, I mean, because they didn't. I mean, the first 7 months, somebody was screaming every 2 hours at night, so we just switch off. My wife, they got so bad at one point, I had to go out and sleep in the RV. She goes, "You go sleep in the RV tonight. One of us gets a night of sleep. I'll go sleep in the RV the next night." So we started just doing shifts, and so that's big on our heart. Is family,
that's a permanent integration into the family?
Not necessarily. It could be. It very well could be, which we're open to. We don't know. At this point, we don't know. And that's probably even doubly hard. Right. It's like, man, we are slaving away and we have no idea where this goes for the kids or us, which is, it's just a very tough thing. But that's probably the biggest way I couldn't give back any more on that front than I am at the moment, which is fun. Just to see the rewards, but it's been a long year.
Thank you for unleashing that on us. That's being vulnerable. That's an incredible thing you're doing, and I'm sure it's not easy to do. So three kids, is an instant family in 30 minutes. So well done.
Yeah, man. They're like,
cup of family.
I was coming over and playing pickleball. My wife's like, "Hey, so I think there's 3 kids coming, and can you stop at the store?" I'm like, so I'm walking through Kroger at 8:00 at night, like asking anybody, "Hey, what is an 8-month-old drink? Like, what bottles should I like? Which nipple size bottle flow rate? I don't know. Just throw stuff in the cart so I can get home." That's just the way it goes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, look, I want to thank you for sharing that with us. And at the end of every show, we like to dive into the lightning round. Are you ready to get into it?
Yep, let's hit it.
What is the daily habit you practice to keep on track towards your goals?
90% of the time, I'll say it 80. I have a morning routine, which I love. And it's been harder this year. Again, when you're not sleeping, when you're catching sleep anywhere you can, things like morning routines go away because you're losing your mind elsewhere, and there's not really the energy to focus on these types of things. But one of the things I've done for years and love it is just my morning routine, which is part Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. I'm sure you've heard that before. Part my own creation, part goals and visions for the year, and big goals organized by role and by, month and by what I want to hit by this date. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of, what's it called? Not envisioning, but when you have like a vision for what the future to be. Yep. So I sit there and I think about what that day looks like. Spend a lot of time walking through that day, like where it's funny because I have this certain house that I live in. And I do this certain same thing every day. My wife's always sitting in the same spot, drinking a cup of coffee as I'm walking out the door with my snowboard to get in my certain truck. And literally, I saw the house the other day. All of a sudden, it came across my screen, some picture randomly. And I'm like, on the internet, I'm like, wait, that's the house. That's the place. I know. I've been there. I'm like, that's where I'm like, I'm going to be there someday. It was just kind of weird. It was actually really freaky because like everything, this doorstep and everything was just right. I'm like, that is the house. This is bizarre.
That's awesome. Did you buy it? Are you buying it?
No, sir. I'm not there yet. It's got a couple more zeros on it than maybe what the checkbook will swing at the moment. But yeah, that's it. I mean, just looking at where I want to be and setting my mind towards those things. And again, you're wrapping up the show, but that's I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned in real estate is really mindset, right? Like coming from not, significant means, you end up subtly, though my mom was really good with money. My dad still isn't good with money because he just didn't know anything about it. He never cared. But mom was great with money, but never really had that like, hey, we can go beyond where we are. That you can do, if you put your mind to it, you really can do anything. I mean, you say you can't, you're right. You say you can, you're probably right. Like, and that to me has been a big mind shift in just understanding that, yeah, you know what, I can break out of maybe the cycle that I've been shown and do a lot more. So yeah, that's how I stay on track.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us. I think, foreshadowing and not foreshadowing, but putting things into the universe and thinking about them, and then they come real, or you see it. It is a little freaky sometimes. So
yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Question number 2 is, who's the most influential person in your career?
That's a great question. There's so many people. To narrow one down, there's a guy named Bo Wilfong. Give a shout out to Bo. He's probably unknown in our sphere, but in the real estate realm, very successful, very down to earth, very humble. Somebody that I've accounted, has personally mentored me when I was in my mid-20s. Spent a ton of time with Bo, both personally and professionally. And one of those people that you don't know how much money he has or doesn't have, because he's just himself. And it's like, has done great things. So that's somebody that I look up to and is just super humble and very, very wise. So yeah, shout out to Bo.
Thanks, Bo. Awesome. Question number 3 is, what is the most influential tool in the business? And when I say tool, it could be a physical tool like a phone or a notebook, or it could be a piece of software that you can't run your business without. What is it?
Man, a phone. It's absolutely the phone.
Okay.
I mean, I'm older school, and I hate using computers. I use them because I need to. But if you give me the option to talk to an investor on the telephone or have a Zoom call or set up, just give me the telephone. Let's just dial and talk. Like that's in there. I hope to work myself out of sitting in front of a computer at some point.
I do too. My question number 4, in one sentence, what's been the biggest failure in your career? What did you learn from that failure?
So when I sold that company, and then I had money and time on my hands, the biggest failure was I panicked. I mean, I panicked. I had no idea. I'm 30 years old. I have money in the bank. I have time on my hands. I don't know where to live. I don't know what my next career is. Looked at this, looked at that. I tried a half a dozen different things, just pissing money and time away like an idiot just because I was freaking out. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I've got to learn. I got to figure out a way to make a living. And that goes back to the poor mentality, where it's like, you just got to know where your next, dollar's coming from, which I really didn't. It was fine. I had time, I had money. Well, slow down, dude. Like, I go back and slap myself and just like, sit down, son. Just be patient. Just chill out. You'll figure this out. So yeah, that was a failure in the sense that I wasted a lot of money and I wasted a lot of time just screwing around, doing dumb stuff versus going, wait, if I again pick a niche, go an inch wide and a mile deep, and just methodically approach whatever it is I'm doing, it would probably make a lot more sense. So that was 2012 into 2013 was probably the most painful year of my life. 2021 is the most difficult. That was probably the most painful.
Interesting. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's important to reflect on the youth in your brain to say you got to panic. And I love what you said about the poor man mentality. You don't know where your next dollar's coming from, but just take a breath and it will come. Yeah. So yeah,
that's it.
Awesome. Well, last question is, where can people reach you to continue the conversation? They want to be in your sphere. Where do they go?
Yeah, man, absolutely. First thing I would do is follow me on LinkedIn. That's probably the most, place I'm probably most active. You can find me there. Look up Samuel Wilson, look up how to scale commercial real estate. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Other thing is go to brickettinvestmentgroup.com. That's our website. The free checklist. Go to Bricket Investment Group. That's BRICKEN investmentgroup.com/checklist. I got a great checklist on there that will help you vet a deal in 10 minutes. So if you get an opportunity coming across your desk, you're like, I don't know if this is for me, download the checklist. It will really help you refine your criteria. So that's a really fantastic free resource on the website. And of course, also listen to the podcast, How to Scale Commercial Real Estate.
Awesome stuff, mate. Well, look, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the show today, just to reflect a little bit about what I took away from today's show. I think, your niche into the boat and RV space, going through those numbers just then, really makes a lot of sense. And kudos for you to graduate into the ground up development space, because it is a harder space to get into, but you're seeing opportunity where you see opportunity where others don't. And I think that's what makes a successful investor be curious about something to go off and then execute. So well done on that. I also think, you're keeping true to yourself, your quality of life, being humble. You sound like a really humble guy, down to earth, but making sure you're pursuing the right things in life, not just chasing the dollar. I think that was really important to me. And then, your vulnerability of sharing with the 3 kids, from a trauma and abuse background coming into your life, and how that's changed you and your wife's life up a little bit upside down a little bit in the last 12 months. So particularly with all this COVID nonsense going on. So, mate, did I leave anything out?
No, man. Sounds great. Thank you for having me on, Reed.
Mate, my pleasure. Well, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up very, very soon. Well, there you have it, a great, cracking episode with Samuel Wilson. Please remember to check over to his website and check out everything that's going on over on there. Download his free checklist to check out any deals that you might be looking at right now. I think it will really, really help a lot of people. Check him out on LinkedIn, breckeninvestmentgroup.com. And also you can Google his name, who comes up everywhere. You Google him. He's got an incredible podcast that I was also on. I want to thank you all for taking some time out of day to tune in to continue to grow your financial IQ, because that's what we're all about here on this show. We're going to do this all again next week. So remember, be bold, be brave, and go give life a crack.